Hello. I have seen 40k change over a good while now. I've seen factions rise and fall. I've seen new releases and old re-releases. I've seen the Necrons before Zarek. And in this time, I've accumulated some understanding of how factions play, how the game itself plays, and how it changes as the years go by. I am like Trazen in that one Battlefleet Gothic cutscene, even though I still consider myself relatively new to the hobby. This channel over the past 8 months or so has hopefully delivered some neato tutorials about Warhammer and how to best maximize your plastic crack, but I haven't talked about the game itself yet. I've explained the setting, I've delved into the characters, and more recently, I've explained a good way of dipping your toes into the warp hole that is this hobby, but I have not actually talked about the rules of the game. So, that's what this video is about. 10th edition's ever-changing rules and how to fit your style of faction to, each of them. If you enjoy this content, please support the channel by leaving subscribing if you're at all interested in keeping up to date with things going on here. In my mom's basement. And above all, if you take anything away from this video, thank you for watching. Your view means the world to me. Now, Warhammer 40,000 10th edition is a complex little can of worms to open. Even though it is the most streamlined, simplified, and efficient iteration of the game, it is still 40k, and with it comes complexity. If I were to summarize 10th edition in a single sentence, I would probably say, very shooty. You either kiss the walls or die, which is very different from 9th edition, which I describe as very stabby green railguns. 10th edition is a step in a new direction for Warhammer. Having tanks feel tanky again, and having guns feel really good to use, and meltas being taken around the back of the shed and shot. It is still really fun, especially in larger sized games where you can maximize your faction, gimmicks and all. The ideal game is very much from 1,000 points to 3,000 points, this being a solid margin to play at, as it provides the best balancing even with certain units and enough variety in your army so that you can span the spectrum of elites and shooting to horde and melee. Not necessarily linked, but sometimes so. You get 40k at its finest, and it is a treat, especially when you get to use the full rules of the game. Which leads me to the main point in this video. The rules most people use in 40k are mainly just the datasheet rules and 3 stratagems: Overwatch, grenades, and tank shock. Oh, and how could I ever forget the favorite child? At the end of the day, your detachment stratagems and the core stratagems all serve a purpose, and all can turn the tide of a game in a heartbeat when used in their ideal times. But nobody uses them, leading to games feeling stale and boring after 4 or so battles. Well, if you feel tired of your faction, if you feel tired of your playstyle, or even just tired of 40k as a whole, boy do I have news for you, because as with most IT issues, the problem rarely lies with the system, and almost always with the user, knowingly or unknowingly. 10th edition keeps a lot of core concepts the same across the entire game. With that, it leads to those new concepts becoming familiar concepts, which then become boring as you already know exactly what the fuck a Wall Sternguard veteran sitting at your infantry. You know what they're about to do, especially within rapid fire range. It's the same old story. I fire 20 strength 4 AP 1 shots at your orc boys, your boys have no save and get nearly wiped. It's just who goes first wins because of attrition. That's really it. Maybe that unit had the smoke screen keyword and he decided to pop smoke to get cover in stealth, but really, it's just, I tap to God and go meet God. If you do this for every unit in your army, then pass the turn and save against every unit in the opponent's army, pass the turn, get into melee, get Overwatch, either wipe or die end of game, it gets boring. Though, notice the lack of stratagems. The orc boys could have gone to ground for 6 up invul and cover bonus, or Arden's Nails for -1 to wound, or go get him to do a surge move after that shooting like the corn berserkers. If in this situation the orc player had gone to ground and used art as nails, those guns would have practically whiffed, wounding on 6s, and the boys would probably have only lost a guy or two. As opposed to being nearly wiped because of the sheer hail of fire being thrown at them. And yes, I am assuming there are only 10 boys in the squad. There are so many stratagems that make all the factional 40k so much fun to play and play against, as you never know what could be thrown at you in response to your move. For example, with the Anvil Siege Force, if you shoot a Marines unit for 2 command points, they can just shoot back at you. If that's a Terminator squad being led by a captain, that makes it a 1 command point stratagem and the shooting way better. As you could also use Battle Drill Recall in that phase for free to not only shoot back in your opponent's turn, but be shooting with sustained hits 1 and critting on 5s if you stood still. That's way better than simply getting shot, isn't it? Stratagems are the easiest way of making your games so much more fun than just shoot and get shot. But that's not where it ends. The different missions you play also can make the game so much more fun. Playing with the Leviathan mission deck over the past year or so has led to so many games that are decided either by a single victory point or tabling the opponent as your scores come to a tie. The secondary missions that you choose and the overall primary mission that decides how the game will be played all comes together to make a ridiculously entertaining game that is filled with close calls and clutch moments. With the new Pariah Nexus mission deck out, these rules, secondaries, and deployments have all been reassessed and changed to be even more fun, which is why it breaks my heart to see people complaining about 40k, as it really is a fun game, but nobody actually uses the best parts of the game. This has all led up to me making this video to tell you how to level up your gaming experience and make Warhammer great again. I'm here to give you some real effective tips on how to make your games fun again, starting with some simple stuff depending on your faction. Here are the timestamps for each faction type, so you can skim through the parts that are more relevant to you. But it would be greatly appreciated if you listen to everything so that this video can do well and so that you can know what to expect from other players who are keen to change up their playstyle for more fun one. Horde Armies. Okay, in most attachments for Horde Armies, there will be a stratagem that either allows you to bring back dead units or heal damaged units. For example, Endless Swarm for the Invasion Fleet detachment, which is Tyranids, or Reinforcements stratagem for the combined Regiment detachment. Guard. If you look through your stratagems, I guarantee you will find something. I know this because I've seen it in almost every Horde army, from Necrons to Nits. There is a stratagem or a unit or some way to keep guys on the board, because in Horde armies, your guys are shit. They are meant to die so that you can keep big guns alive and killing, which is why I say this. Use that stratagem to keep your chap on the board for the intended reason of using up your opponent's shooting to spare your big guns. That's how you smite poxwalkers, and that's how I get fat numbers. But at the same time, don't just have them there to get shot. Don't get me wrong, they will very much get shot, but use them as a credible threat against your opponent. Run them up the board, use them to get objectives, get them as close as possible to your opponent's units, because meanwhile, you will be positioning your valuable units to either secure those objectives or set up firing lines to snipe the scare units from your opponent's army. A good example of this is running 2 20-man Hormagon squads up the board and into the front line of your enemy whilst your precious high-powered or Nord emissary gets close to objectives and waits around corners to fuck over some nasty-looking Alaris Terminators. If your opponent doesn't respond by killing the 2 chaff units, they will be overrun and pinned down even if they do manage to kill your special unit. And if they do kill your chaff units, then you have a big fuck-off bug way closer to those banana boys and girls than your opponent would like. Then, if the chaff is still alive, you can heal both unit D6+6 models with the Invasion Fleet detachment stratagem, or just bring back one of those units with the Unending Swarm detachment stratagem. Boom. Easy way to fuck over the other guy. Spam troops at them and smack them in the back of the head with the fucking big thing of your choice. Robo Dorn, Kill Rig, Chaos Predator. Doesn't matter, you name it, the concept is the same. Have a credible threat that is in your opponent's front line that if they do not respond will fuck them over in the long run. Semi-elite armies. Okie doke. Most semi-elite dudes will have the grenades keyword. And I know that stratagem is very juicy, but hold on. Ideally, you'll also have a character attached to that unit. Most elite characters have a good melee profile, unless you're Tau, in which case, just use your faction rule and spam Riptides again. Keep thinking 8th edition, you'll be fine. Instead of using grenades on an enemy unit, instead consider the Epic Challenge stratagem. Classic example. A Space Marine captain attached to a squad of intercessors and a CSM Legionary squad with a character in it. It doesn't matter which characters in the enemy squad. Could be a Master of Executions, could be a Chaos Lord. On the charge, declare Epic Challenge. If you declare with Captain, it's even free, which will isolate your melee-focused Space Marine captain and the enemy character in the unit. This is very good, as you can pretty much use your Big Dick Primaris captain with Fuck Off Power Sword and his once per game finest hour ability to give yourself 3 extra attacks and devastating wounds. And if you're running the Firestorm Assault Force, you should also proc Crucible Battle for +1 to wound, or you can use Shock Assault before the charge to give your unit lance. And then the Epic Challenge stratagem for pretty much the same effect with the Stormlance Task Force detachment. At that moment, as you're about to roll out some bad attacks against the enemy Chaos Lord or whoever, look up to see the sheer look of fear on your opponent's face, as you can bet your bottom fucking dollar that they did not expect their precious character, their 90-point fat-cocked Super Chad, you know, the guy he was talking about wiping entire squads with, he was untouchable because of his bodyguard, to be singled the fuck out in honorable melee combat against 9 attacks, 2 up weapon skill, wounding on 4, 3 AP, wounding on 4s and 3s with AP 2 damage, devastating wounds, just frothing at the mouth, roided up fat cock Chad that is currently your captain. Now this is a personal favorite move of mine, as nobody expects Bolt Rifle Winter Sister plus Captain Charge until they're looking at those dice headed their way for their precious little dude. Tip of the day is that having a melee character in a unit is not as bad as an idea as you think it is, especially if you cast Go Fuck Yourself for free with the Rites of Battle rule to absolutely eradicate the poor enemy character that did not see death from 1,000 miles away, all the while I blast the Last Stand by Sabaton and laugh at the futile attempts to block my glorious devastating. I'm sorry, you thought you would die straight up? No, bitch! Elite Armies. Let's look at an interesting example of how to maximize your Elite Armies rules with some Chaos Knights. Usually Elite Armies will be extremely low model count with extremely high output. If you want tips on how to make Custodes cracked, check out this video. But also, usually their stratagems are very specific for their faction. The one thing that does tie Elite Armies together is that unlike Horde or semi-elite armies, each loss is devastating to your forces. You have no lives to waste, so making your elite unit stay alive for as long as possible is the best chance you have to win games. In this example, let's look at a Knight Desecrator, which is the medium-sized McDonald's mule of Chaos Knights. This knight already is toughness 12, 5 up, and roll tilt normal save. But let's explore how to really maximize your knight in a battle. The faction rule essentially debuffs enemy units within 12 inches and makes you better against battle shocked units while making those same units worse. If you want to make the most of this knight, ideally you will have it move right up towards any either objective you want or to valuable threats. Do remember, Chaff can practically do nothing unless the unit has a random las cannon or a melt-a-gun or uses the grenade stratagem, which in that case you shouldn't be as worried because there likely will also be some sort of las cannon or fire prism on a tank. You really don't want to see that thing on the board. In that instance, you want to get into melee with that tank as quickly as possible, since being a vehicle you can shoot into and out of melee anyways, and you want to drop the tank to half health as fast as possible. This faction rules work especially well when units are battle shocked, which means you want to battle shock units as quickly and efficiently as possible. Additionally, charging into the units you don't want to see also has a few benefits, which might make that -1 to shooting seem not as bad. Firstly, that tank can only shoot you in that phase with Overwatch, meaning it is less likely to hit. Secondly, you can use Tank Shock, which at toughness 12 means a lot of pain for your opponent even before the fighting phase. And thirdly, you will be closer to a lot more units near you, meaning you can battle shock more enemy units near you, meaning you can use the Terror Shade stratagem to deal further mortal wounds and heal. So to recap, You start off by moving and shooting to try and pick off any faraway tanks you don't want to see, all the while trying to get from your deployment zone into the closest and most viable threat as soon as possible. Once you get into melee with the threat, Avatar, Kane, Gilman, Scary Tank, you name it, you use Tank Shock. Then, as the unit slowly becomes more and more battle shocked, you'll become better and better, especially if you manage to battle shock whatever you're in engagement range of, since that will make its shooting against you practically or particularly bad. You can only stack to a -1 in 10th edition, but they've essentially got a -2 modifier, so any +1 is fucking negated, meaning you'll be shooting also at +1 to ballistic skill because of your faction rule against that battle shock unit from turn 3 onwards, meaning you can ignore the shooting penalty from big guns never tire. This only improves as you do this against infantry, which can't shoot at you in melee, but you can damn well shoot at them. So bring a Night Tyrant with a Dark Flame Cannon and run that prick into some infantry for funsies or to really piss off your opponent.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer.
And if you use these neato tips and tricks, you'll absolutely find yourself having fun again in your games of Warhammer 40,000 10th edition. I know that the game can get stale, but hopefully by using the different core strategies, favoring tactics that are more in theme with the style of your army, and trying out some different missions with different primaries and secondaries, you can spice up your games and start having fun again. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe for more of this. And happy hunting in your future games of Warhammer 40,000 where the factions are dumb and the rules are dumber. And god damn it, I hate this fucking cold.
Rocky Road McDonald's! Rocky